Auditor's office, Mike?
Good afternoon. Today is February 28th, 2023. We're here to conduct a budget hearing for the auditor's office and all funds associated with it. I'll turn it over to Commissioner Hammercheck now.
Gotcha. Welcome.
Hey,
So,
you want me to just take it?
dive on in, brother.
All right, here we go. All right, you have, at least I did, I'm sure you have us as well on your packet. There was, that
Yes.
was left there. I saw that was easily left here by staff. Page 3 is what I'll be working off of. Has a blue line. It's about, 4 pages in, I'm sorry. Blue line at the bottom.
Let's see. Could you show us? Last,
like this.
the last page? In the-
That one.
that one, okay. Turn to the last page. Got
That way
it.
we're
Hey,
all-
he's getting to the bottom
We're
line.
all singing from the same hymn here. Here we go. All right, I'm going to start off with, I'll start at the bottom and work up. You'll see in the columns, you'll have the 2023 proposed budget from the commissioners. Then you have the 2023, what was revised based on.
Oh, is your microphone on by chance?
Oh, sorry.
No, there we go. Now we got to start all over again.
All right. Hi, my name is Chris, and
Hi, Chris.
I apologize. I don't ever sit here and do these things, so I didn't know that wasn't live.
You know. Red bad, green good.
Right. Green means go. So starting at the bottom, and I'll go at the bottom and I'll work my way up. You'll see 2023 Commissioner's proposed budget, and then the 2023 revised budget, revised after this was prepared. Obviously, we submit something to you folks in May. Obviously, getting towards the end of the year, things are a little bit different, so we always make sure we revisit it again. So this is what I sent up to the budget office and to all of you as a proposed. And the lines that are bold are where you're going to see a difference between what was proposed and what I was requesting. The first thing at the bottom under the equipment line, you'll see $15,000. That is because I am making some changes to our payroll office, and I will be moving the payroll folks into a secured location within the office, and so I need new office furniture for that location to locate those staff members into it. My feeling was when I came into office that I was not happy with the sort of open nature of the way payroll is situated within my office. As you know, you've all probably been there and visited for payroll purposes. It's sort of in an open, high-traffic area, and it has been that way for a long time. And so I want to take them, put them in their own office with a lockable door, and so I need to have some dollars in order to put some furniture and things in there and situate them properly. Moving on, PC network software. This was proposed as a zero. I was putting in an amount for $5,000, mostly just because of replacement schedule on computers and paying for that out of that line item. Moving further up, Information Technology Services, 649. Proposed was $25,000, and I'm putting in or requesting $27,500, so an additional $2,500 over what was proposed, and that's mostly a function of the cost of various like upgrades on Munis. There's some other little things that we may need to pay for, and chargebacks to IT. Those numbers have gone up. So my feeling was that based on what we could see in terms of costs, what we were expecting, 59.5 versus 58 would be a more accurate number.
Just to clarify, though, the information technology services, that's outside services, or that's your own internal IT, and you're charging back to your own
That's
people?
our internal. Yeah, we don't contract out.
Okay. So
We use county IT services. But as you know, The amount was increased by the data board on chargebacks and the amount for the internal cost.
So you charge back, okay, I'm just trying to get my arms around this. So you charge back to yourself because IT is under the auditor's office.
Still has to work that way. And it's not.
IT is 112 account number, ours is 120, two different departments.
Right.
They're different departments, but it's under your control. Then I'm trying to get like the org chart in my mind.
Well, IT operates as a department that services all of the county. So they are not under my control in that regard. In terms of administration and management, yes, but in chargebacks, the auditor's office does pay chargebacks back to IT as part of their budget, the same way the recorder and everybody else does. So that way, it's equal and fair for all entities across the county.
That was a clarification. Thank you both.
Yep. So that's, again, minor bump, about $2,500 more is what I estimate. Contracts and repairs proposed was 0. I am proposing 1,500. I don't have anything specifically thinking that needs to be fixed or repaired, but if you look on that sheet and you go back, some years it's 0 that we spend, some years it's 1,000, 1,118, 1,422. My feeling is, in terms of budgeting, be conservative and assume something may need to be repaired. So I'm just simply asking for $1,500 in that line item. When we get into contract services, I think you've got proposed $58,000, and I am suggesting $59,500. Again, we have some expected increases in contracted services in terms of like the debt book and some other things. Beware, different chargebacks. So when we added it all up, 59.5 seemed to be the number that made more sense.
And debt book and the other stuff you mentioned, those are some
But there's a whole bunch
packages.
of stuff. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of stuff. I mean, there's things that we pay out of this. Our accounting firm that works with us on the audit, microfilm charges, Beware, our share of those costs on Beware, our costs on debt book.
What's a Beware?
Beware is the phishing.
Oh, okay. Got it.
This is
Beware.
all stuff
Got
we pay for. We have our costs on ShoreTel, the voicemail, and again, looking at all those costs, 59.5 versus 58,000 seemed to be more accurate. So just asking for a few extra dollars in that line item. Moving up, minor equipment. That was mostly I'm just asking for $250 versus the proposed 0 because in the event that we need something as it relates to weights and measures, again, I don't necessarily have something in mind at this time, but if there's a tool or something that we need, that might come along, that's where we would want to pay that out of. And
Mr. President,
Sir.
I just wanted to make sure the auditor was aware that the vintage scale with the George Voinovich stamp is still at the Habitat for Humanity Restore. And I believe the price is $75, so you would have the budget for it.
Fair enough. Yeah, so I mean, again, that's just more of me saying, hey, something may come down the pike. Rather than having 0 in that line item, I would prefer to have 250. And by the way, tomorrow is the start of Weights and Measures Week. So I'm this county auditors, we're supposed to be, I've been told by the association I should be doing something to celebrate that.
We should give you a certificate on Thursday.
Well, listen, that's not my bailiwick. You gentlemen are the expert in that. But
I'll yield to Commissioner Pleshnick on the expertise there.
Anyway, it's very exciting. It's Weights and Measures Week.
Well, I am curious, though, because I know that our previous auditor, Ed Zupancic, actually won some statewide awards with Weights and Measures. Are we in contention for any of those?
I'm not aware of any. I don't know. Do you know what awards Ed won for Weights and Measures?
There are some awards hanging in our office.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, most of those were something, they were doing a big project in East Lake, some new building they put up, they were growing something, they were measuring things accurately, I'm not sure what that was.
I can tell you in our annual
They were
reports,
very happy to be there for some
in our
reason.
annual reports and audits with the state, they're very pleased with our Weights and Measures operation. So I'm not aware of our being in contention for any particular Weights and Measures Awards.
But at least you're in balance.
That's correct. Yes, very much so. Again, minor equipment, that's just more of a contingency. Vehicle repairs and supplies, mostly this is we are paying fuel out of this. Proposed is $4,120. I am requesting $4,300. Minor increase just because of fuel costs, although we have reduced our fleet from 4 cars to 2. And one of the first things I did when I came to office was eliminate staff's ability to drive those to and from work. They were mostly, in large part, being used as commute vehicles, and I didn't find that acceptable. And so that was changed. And so we've subsequently then gone and shrunk the fleet from 4 to 2 vehicles. That said, a large part of our fuel costs are not necessarily our appraisal team in the field, although that is some of it. A large part of it is our weights and measures guys, and we have more facilities, new gas stations in Madison, more places we're going and doing what they need to do. So again, my suggestion was to increase that to $4,300, a nominal over what was proposed just based on fuel costs. Moving on up, the life insurance, I know that was a clerical error and just needed to reflect 720 in that line versus the 360 that was proposed. And then everything else subsequent of the salaries obviously falls down falls into place based on salaries. I think proposed is $366,000 for 2023. I am requesting $391,000 for salaries in 512, and that is largely a function of maneuvering staff depending on their job duties between the 266 and the 120, and just a need for additional revenue to cover those salaries for 2023. So requesting 391 in that line item. And those are the differences between what was proposed and submitted and versus or proposed versus what we are requesting.
Okay, this is the part where I have to say no decisions will be made until all budget meetings are completed. So, yay. I got to get that commercial in there at least once during each broadcast. Okay, gentlemen, questions for the auditor? Okay, I guess we're there. Well, that was easy. Wow, this one.
I told you I was going to rip right through these things. I appreciate you guys taking the time and the consideration. You mentioned nothing is final. When will there be when will the deliberation and on-lot meeting be? When will that be scheduled and taking place? Oh, okay. Yeah.
Well,
just so I know,
we're 45 minutes ahead of schedule on this one, so we got bonus time now. So.
Well, I mean, I was just curious if we had a schedule for that beyond this hearing. That was all.
Yeah, frankly, we're just making sure that everything fit within the allotted times, and you just we might have actually set the record here. So, yay!
I'm pretty boring, so you know.
No, you're not.
Mr. President.
Sir.
So, hey, Chris, with the cyclomedia, was that taken care of? I know you wanted to start in March.
So this is a discussion that we are going to have. Administrator Boyd went ahead and greenlit the spring drive for that. I did request with Cyclomedia, they offered, and I requested that they delay invoicing on that into to the end of June. And I explained to them that we were still in the midst of our budget process. As far as it comes down to the cost of that is not decided. That is, as you know, a county commissioner contract that was done through GIS. GIS, as you know, is funded through outside revenue sources. GIS does not have the dollars to pay that contract currently. Their budget is very tight, and they don't have the dollars to absorb that.
But you had a quote, right? We knew what it would cost?
No, when the contract was signed in 20, there were two phases. There was the 20 phase and the 2023 phase. The 2020 phase was paid out of CARES Act completely. And at the time, the discussion that we had between Jim Branch at GIS, Mr. Boyd, Mr. Matus, and myself, along with the commissioners at that time was, and we'll figure out 2023 when we get to 2023. Lo and behold, time flies, and here we are in 2023.
And I think we were originally, I think the contract had us flying, or not flying, driving in the fall.
Right.
But they reached out and had some openings in the spring.
And again, my desire to drive it in the spring versus the fall, either way, we are contractually obligated for it. My desire on requesting from my office the drive this spring was because we are in the middle of our 2024 sexennial. We are in the middle of our desktop processes on appraisals, and having up-to-date from the ground that drive data, those photos, will be supremely helpful to us now versus we'll be almost completing in November. It's much more useful to us now. So I had reached out to them and asked them if in fact they would be willing to move that up into the spring without charging us anything additional, any kind of a fee. They said absolutely. So there is no additional fee for moving it up these 6 months. So they are looking to start that first week of April.
Okay. So
the answer is yes. There needs to continue. There needs to be a meeting and a discussion on the cyclomedia contract and where that's going to be paid from.
I guess the question that begs, if I may, the beneficiaries of that process, would that not be, because again, my first obligation is to protect the general fund.
Sure.
There's a lot of demands on the general fund. You might have read about it in the paper lately. Who are the typical, as long as we got bonus time, who are the typical beneficiaries of this?
Well, first and foremost, I mean, the public. It's out on our GIS system. Secondarily,
is that a primary or is that a co-benefit? Because it sounds like you're using it for tax evaluation purposes.
well, I am, yes, that's what my office would use it for. Planning department uses it, the sheriff's office uses it, the engineer uses it, sanitation uses it. I mean, it's a multi-enterprise-wide, tool. So to say, oh, it's a, and again, I think there was maybe some initial confusion because I was requesting the drive as if this was just an auditor function. I mean, it's a tool that's out there for everybody, like all of the GIS tools, and a number of departments use and access it. So, the question becomes then, to your point, where is that, who's getting it, using it, and then therefore paying for it? Right? So I would suggest to you that you have a wide array of users across the enterprise in terms of departments and elected officials.
But is it there because it's convenient, or is it there because it's a necessity? I could give you examples, but I think my meaning is plain. Do you need this in order to do your evaluation? Or your reevaluation?
Well, do I need it? No. But what it has done is having that data. Obviously, if somebody wants to look at some parcel, not only from the pictometry we have, the aerials, but then having the ground view, potentially it lessens our costs on appraisal because we're not having to drive out there and take a look at something between those tools that we have. And that's just me speaking for my office.
That's
fair. I
fair.
know that things like dispatch could use it for the purposes of letting deputies on the scene know, because again, terrain, they can look and see before they get there. I know the engineer was interested in it because they can go and look at how after an accident, say how were things situated, poles, things like that. They had different things like that. There were a number of uses at the time, if my memory serves me, and Jason, feel free to add, that there were a number of different departments that felt like there were things that they would get from it.
Sure. Again, I'm kind of hanging on it to co-benefit.
Sure, yeah. And that's, so I can only speak to me of what I use it for and what we use it for. Other departments, I would defer to them.
And then I guess the question would be, so who legally could be paying for this? Who should be paying for this?
Well, I mean,
Those are
ultimately,
concerns that I'm
legally, the
drilling
commissioners.
Yeah, we entered into the contract 2 years ago, as the auditor said, with the care.
And we're the contracting authority, I understand
Oh,
that. And
yeah.
I realize that we don't have Mr. Hackman or Mr. DeLeon here to help me with that. But I'm just gonna shoot from the hip and say, who could be, should be. I understand if there's a lawsuit, we sit in the chair even though we had absolutely nothing to do with what we're being sued about, which is why we have people down in Texas representing us in a litigation over taxes. I'm trying to get down to the base of who should be paying for this. I can't send the sheriff a bill for this because his deputies or his dispatchers might look at something, is what I'm getting at. I don't want to divvy this thing up. If it should be coming out of this bucket of money and then everybody else gets to benefit from it, great. That is money well spent, but I'm also not going to go and pass the hat around to say, how are we going to pay for this?
No, I
thing?
understand. No,
I'm actually looking for some help on this.
Yeah, no, I mean, to me, it should probably come out of 119.
What is 119? I don't know
Well,
what
that's
that is.
that's your interdepartmental, non-departmental fund that you guys run a lot of things through. That has to do with things that fall into that category of it's for the commissioners and the auditor and the prosecutor and this and building department and health, not health department, but different things that a lot of times those things will go through 119. Now, and I think that's also to be understood that, the engineer has his outside funds. I have mine, sanitation. That is not to say that and again, this falls under GIS, which falls under the engineer. So, it's going to be a patchwork, I think, ultimately. But I think if it was, if I was giving you advice, it would be 119 would be part of where I would look.
Okay. I'm just making notes here.
Sure.
I'm trying to, this is almost like putting the pictures on the wall and running this yarn between them. Yes, I'm old school. So GIS, they're funded by engineer, water, sewer.
Sanitary,
Real
auditor,
estate.
and engineer. We all currently contribute to that budget, plus some small contracts that they have with outside entities like Madison Township and things like that.
And this all interfaces, I'm sorry, I'm probably off mic now. I'm the one who's off mic. This, with the whole GIS, Esri, everything just seamless. It comes together beautifully well.
Well, we try to make it come together beautifully well and seamless.
Okay, but that's the goal, though. They should
Yeah,
all,
right. And again, I think that this was a 2-year or 2-phase contract that was done in 20, and I think that to sort of take the logical to your questions, which is, I think after the 2023 drive, there should be a conversation as to whether or not, the county wants to continue with that. The county may decide that they don't want to continue with it. I don't know. But I think that's certainly once the contract is completed, it's not to say that this is an expense in perpetuity.
Okay, no, that helped. Thank you.
Sure.
I think we're good. Okay. All right, well, we may not hit the record, but we're still making good ground here. All right, and again, I'll throw the commercial in.
I mean,
No
I had the
decisions will be
record,
made.
but then Commissioner Regovich had to throw out
One question.
cyclomedia.
So no decisions will be made until all budget meetings are completed. So we're good there. All right. I think we might have one more possibly, but that might be a month away, and we're just going to work through things, and life will be good on that. Okay.
All right. And when you guys are ready for a cyclomedia meeting, let me know.
Yay. All right. Thank you. Thanks for
Appreciate it.
joining us. Anything else?